There we go. All right. I promised you all a video on some of the foundation exercises we talked a little bit about in class today. None of these are nose work exercises per se, but they're just handy to have. Oh, and here comes the cat to see himself on the iPad. Moses, get away. Moses, get away. Sit. Sit. Seppi, come over here and sit. We're about to use some negative reinforcement, Moses. Get back. Go away. Sit. Come back over here. Sit. So, these can be useful for you for a lot of different reasons. The slow cookie exercise we talked about, and I use this both for impulse control, for teaching the dog the red light, green light game, which is where as long as they do not move towards what they want, it continues to come to them. As soon as they start to mug you for it, we get a red light, and depending on your circumstances, most often your hand goes back to ground zero. In some cases, it'll just stay still because sometimes the frantic up and down will get the dog more frantic. So you have to sort of read your dog a little bit there. Safi, come sit here. Please sit. Good girl. So slow cookie is known by many different names from many different trainers. I got my particular version from the Focus Puppy book by Deb Jones and Judy Keller. If you want to go and look at their more elegant description of it, I'm sure. But we start out asking the dog to sit, or sometimes just waiting for the dog to sit. I do this with young puppies in my exam room that don't know a sit. By the time they leave on their first puppy visit, most of those puppies have figured out to come and sit and give me eye contact. Hey, and I will become the magic gatekeeper of the cookie jar. And they learn that and remember it, sometimes for years. Sit, please. You can't see the cat on the bed trying to get our attention. So you start out with the cookie in your hand, and it's starting at shoulder level, which is a little bit above where you can see it. We move the cookie towards the dog slowly. Okay, good girl. We give a release, and just our end goal is to get it all the way to her nose and have her turn her head away and avoid it. Not from any negative reinforcement, but because she's controlling herself, she wants it so badly that she knows she can't move towards it or she won't get it. Safi's not a rock star at this game yet, but she's getting it for the amount. She hasn't had that foundation work before she came to me. Sit, please. So this is something that is relatively new to an old dog. You can teach an old dog new tricks. Sit, please. She has a crappy stay, too. So when you first start, you may start with it, and you move it a little bit faster, and you may start, okay, get it. You may reward and let her release to it when it's only about halfway there. And then you gradually are moving a little slower, and you try to get it a little closer. Oops. And that was just a little movement that I might have been more forgiving on, except I'm looking for demonstration purposes. Okay, good girl. I usually say oops because I can't help myself. Some people would argue that you should keep your mouth shut. I think you can make arguments either way. I don't really think it matters a whole lot in the long run. They figure out what you're looking for. Get back here. Despite, hey, Safi, get off the steps. Sit, please. Yes, good girl. Ready? Okay, good girl. So what I do with this exercise that we talked about a little bit in class, sit please, is once they've got it pretty well, I'll put them on a leash. I'll put a little bit, Safi, sit. I'll use a little bit of the opposition reflex, and I'll pull towards me just gently on a leash and a flappical collar. As soon as she braces herself, then she gets the treat. Good girl. And right now I'm just sort of mindlessly feeding the treat because I don't have a leash on her. But I'd start to pull gently. It'd start to come. She comes in on towards the leash pressure, and the cookie goes away. I put a little leash pressure on, and she digs in, and the cookie keeps coming. And so they figure that pretty quickly. Good girl. So I also use that for my dumbbell when I want to teach them to hold the dumbbell, and when I want to teach them to not mouth it. As long as they are holding it quietly, my hands come towards them to get the dumbbell. Just do not take the iPad, your toy. Go away. Go away. If they mouth the dumbbell or drop it, then my hands come up and they have to pick it up and try again. So that's all just a foundation thing. That's a very easy one. And it gives us the foundation of, wait a minute, of what we do with our odor, whether it be handler odor in a sock or whether it be a tin with an odor swab in it. We show it to the dog, yes. And yes, good girl, excellent girl. And as long as I'm out of cookies, where did my cookies go? There. As long as she keeps contact with her nose on the odor, then the cookie keeps coming towards her. And it just becomes a language that you both understand exactly what you want. So her nose is on it. Good girl. I also find when I'm asking for duration for activities like that, using a long verbal that also stops as well as the motion of my hand stops when the nose comes off is really, really helpful. Sit, please. As you can see, she has a really crappy stay. Good girl. I'm going to switch hands for a minute here and see how this works. So I will put it down, let her put her nose on it. Good. 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 We're about to get photobombed. Good. Oh, Moses! That was the cat who just dumped the iPad over. Sit, please. Good. Good. I can't do this with that hand. I'm right-handed. I got to do it this way. Come here, Safi. Come here. Come here. Good girl. Come over here. Sit. No, come here. No, she can't sit on my right side. Sit. Good. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Good girl. Yeah. Yes. Good girl. Yeah. Yes. Good girl. What you may not be able to appreciate is from the video is that some of the time she's actually doing a nose touch to my hand rather than to the sock. And so I'm not going to let that count. So if it looks to you like she's got her nose on it and I'm stopping, it's probably because her nose is not actually on the sock, it's on my hand. Yeah. 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 Yes, good girl. And I'm going to get it, yes, good girl. I'm going to get there a little bit fast to start with so that she can get reinforced. Yes, good girl. Yeah. Yes, good girl. Yes, good girl. Yes, good girl. I'm going to break those cookies up. You don't need all those cookies when you've already had a gazillion today. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, good girl. Yes, good girl. And it's very hard for me to do this and watch the video and do it all. So it's a little sloppy. It's not the cleanest training in the world. But you get the idea. Another foundation, Safi, come. Another foundation sit behavior that we teach, sit that we talked about is just a sustained nose touch to your hand. For the same reason, because if they know a sustained nose touch to your hand, it becomes very easy for it to become a behavior that they offer at source. I do not personally, at this stage in my training, that's not to say it might not change in 6 months. I don't insist on it. I don't perseverate over it. But I do offer them opportunities for reinforcement. And Safi, come. And so because they know it's a behavior that's gotten them reinforcement, if they're having trouble getting my attention and drawing it to the where they think the odor is, my hope is that they will offer that behavior if they're not getting through to me any other way, and that has been my experience with Robbie. It worked really well. Sit. So it was sort of the best of both worlds between a trained alert and a watching for the change of behavior. Safi, come here. Sit. So to start out with, to get your nose touch, which I should have done before the source in your hand, you just show them your hand. Yes, good girl. Most dogs are going to sniff it, praise and reward. And to get your sustained touch, good, good, good. See how you get kind of a pecking when you just kind of praise? You're going to start only, yes, 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 yes. You're going to